Tom, are you okay?
I lost her.
Her?
She was going to be this epic, trilogy-worthy character. I was going to be the hottest writer in Hollywood. But I can't get past Act 1!
You need some writers group therapy. Hello and welcome to Writers Group Therapy.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Roshni. We're writers helping writers. Are you ready for your session? The doctors are in.
Help. Help me. Help me. How do I say no to you?
Hey, to be fair, when you've said yes, you've gotten in some film festivals and
It,
you've
it
won
has
some
worked out.
awards.
Yeah.
Yes. But it is an interesting thing, I think, especially in entertainment, because it is such a feast or famine. We always feel like we can't say no to a project, but
Yeah.
sometimes you should and you can. So when should you? What should be the compelling reasons?
Good question. I get lots of inquiries from people about, hey, what do you think of this? And oh, I'd really like your help on a project. And I, a lot of them never happen.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Sure, let me know when you're ready to go. Because I don't want to get too involved in something that hasn't really started yet. Because then you're involved and you're involved too early in the project.
Yeah.
You want to work with somebody who's coming to you and asking for something who's really ready to go and has everything in order. I think that's, obviously if they're ready to go, then, you can jump in and do the work you need to do versus waiting.
And it sucks when people kind of have you on the hook and you're like, what's going on? I had a
Yeah.
friend early on in my career out here say, if you're going to do something, there should be four reasons you do it. And he said, you're doing it because it pays. You're doing it because you need it for your reel. Maybe like all you have is comedy on your reel, so you should do a dramatic scene. You're doing it because it's fun, because the project sounds like so much fun, and you're like, I can do that. Or because you're like, oh my gosh, that is a director I have to work with. That is a script that I absolutely adore. So you're very passionate about it. And he's like, it's awesome if all four of those things meet, but if not, at least one of those things should be in place. It helps kind of streamline what it is I'm going to submit for in the first place. And then I think even in terms of writing and producing, I've had people come at me and say, hey, produce my stuff. And then I'm like, you want me to do what for you? How much time am I putting into this? What? And if it's not a project that I'm like 100%, actually like 120%, I don't want to sit there and raise money for you, or I don't want to sit there and, find the actors for you and find the crew and put all this time in, and you're paying me like $2. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, this totally makes sense. I get dragged into things and I think it's because I don't know how to say no. I'm too nice.
Everyone's gonna write you now and be like, Tom, help me with my project.
Well, I mean, I've worked on several projects for no pay. I
Hmm.
worked on a sci-fi film, a sci-fi short recently. I did a whole bunch of VFX work. I must have spent over 100, I think 120 hours doing um, compositing, some graphic images into some scenes. And I did it because I wanted the experience. I wanted to get some more experience in doing
Hmm.
that work because I really like it. That's kind of fun work. It was a little stressful at how long it took because of how they prepared the shots, but I think in the end it's going to look really cool, and I'm kind of glad to be a part of it. I'm working on Plan P Productions. That's my friend Bill's puppet productions, parody puppet productions. And I like that because I love puppets. It's really fun. Bill's a great guy to work with. I'm learning a lot from him. So he's kind of, I guess, a little bit of a mentor to me too. So
Hmm.
that's got a lot of positivity to it. I hopefully will get paid at some point because I'm keeping track of my time. And if we can make this project, profitable, then it'd be great. And then this podcast is probably one of my other biggest projects. We've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like we have we learn a lot doing this, talking to each other. So it's kind of rewarding in that respect, and we've been able to interview some really cool guests and made some connections through
Yeah.
that. So each of my projects has something to offer. Maybe not all four of the things that you mentioned, but they all have some reward to them, something that I find useful.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you find yourself in a project that you're just like, oh my gosh, I just can't. Like, so I think, if again, if you are approached with a project and you're just like, it doesn't jazz you, then don't do it. Or if you're in the middle of it, I mean, that's even worse if you've dedicated time and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I walk away? But sometimes for your own sanity, you have to say, okay, I'm done with it, or I need to take a sabbatical, or, whatever, you got to reevaluate.
Yeah. I've only had a couple of those, and the person kept coming back to me and saying, "Hey, do you want to work on another project?" And after having a bad experience, I got through it and I learned from it. But then, you don't want to like tell the person, I'm never going to work with you again. In Hollywood, most people don't do that. It's mostly like, yeah, have a great life. Talk to you later, and then you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
You don't want to burn a bridge, but at the same time, sometimes you just don't want to go back across it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, I think about the whole, like, in terms of saying no to projects and stuff, is the the beauty and the curse of what we do is it's collaborative. You can't make a film without other people. You can write the script, but if you want to have the script made, you're going to need other people, right? You can do this,
Hmm.
you can create puppets with Bill in a vacuum, but then if you want people to see the puppets, other people are going to have to be involved, right? And so that's the beauty and the joy of like working with other artists. But then the downside of it is, like, remember in grade school when you had to do group projects and like only one person did the work? So that's like the crappy side of collaboration, right? Because
Yeah.
some people bring great strengths and some people don't bring anything to the table, and you just don't know what they're going to bring until you're with them working on
Yeah,
it.
fortunately, the Plan P stuff I've been doing with Bill has been fantastic. The cast and the people involved have been very creative, and the only thing we wish we had more of was kind of producing help. But because Bill is doing a ton of stuff himself, and I help
Hmm.
when I can. But yeah, I feel like sometimes I'm just there to kind of cheerlead. Like, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. We'll get it all done. In
Yeah.
fact, actually, I feel like I do a lot of what you did for me when we were on Reclamation, is just making sure I'm checking off all my to-dos and then,
Hmm.
doing what I can on my end, but making sure that things are getting done. And they are. So it's going to be great.
Yeah. And then, of course, luckily there's an end in sight. I mean, I know you guys are going to keep doing these on and on, but at least for this first one, there's an
Hmm.
end in sight, and then you can have a little break before you gear up for the next one.
Yeah.
Mentally prepare
Yeah. It's
yourself,
supposed to be a monthly thing. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. But I think once you set up the format, then it kind of goes easier. It
Yeah,
was yeah.
it'll streamline.
And Bill's pretty he's been in the business for 20 plus years now, and it seems like he really knows what he's doing, and he has a lot of connections. So when he asks people for help, they're really willing to help. They're like, "Oh yeah, you're working on this? I definitely want to work with you." So if you're working with
Mhm.
someone like that, it really makes the project exciting, and you can see that you're getting into a situation where you're not going to be like stuck doing it all or working with someone who can't get it done. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because I trust, I'm pretty confident that Bill can pull it off. I think sometimes he wonders, but he usually is pretty confident, and I think it's going to be turn out really well. So I'm glad I'm working on it.
Mhm. That's good. I mean, honestly, like, getting started on a project is usually like the biggest battle. I think once a project is underway, whether it's a film or a theater production or recording a song, once you're actually in it, then it'll get done.
Right, and once you get the first one done, and then people see, oh well, that was really cool. Then more people want to help you too.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not even talking about like it'd be different if you and Bill were just talking about doing this puppet show and never even put it on the stage, but you're actually in the process of putting it on the stage. So I'm talking about like all the talk people do before they ever launch
Oh
anything,
yeah,
you know? Because it's easy to talk and say like, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and then you just don't spend the time getting the crew and filming the project or whatever. So,
yeah.
yeah, at least once you're in it, you know it's going to happen. it's happening, right? People have bought
Mhm.
tickets, it's
It's
happening.
actually
So
sold tickets,
something's
yeah,
we're gonna see something,
yeah.
whether,
I feel like
you
Reclamation
know
in some ways is like that, where we did the pilot episode, but I've never got it continued, and I feel like there's people who signed on to this expecting this to continue, and I feel bad. We're still hoping to do that, and I've got some new strategies in mind. So I hope people
Mhm.
who signed on to my projects, you know, got something out of it, and don't feel like I've completely abandoned them at this point, so that they don't regret working on the project. I don't think they do because it's
Yeah.
done pretty well. So
Yeah, and it's all seasons, right?
hmm
We're all seasons of doing certain things, and certain things take precedence and priority
yeah, I
and
definitely want to get back to
all that
that though.
stuff. Well, I want you to get back to it too, considering I was in it. So, how about for all of you? When have you ever said no to a project? And how do you say no gracefully? Let us know at WG Therapy. You can also find us online at writersgrouptherapy.com. Individually, you can find us
Tom
at,
underscore Loveman on Twitter and Tom Loveman on Instagram.
and I'm at Moonlily Music on Instagram, and I'm at Roshni Lamino on Twitter. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.